Hi, before we find out what happens next, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It takes a second and really help us grow. Out of the story.
I was making dinner when someone knocked on the door at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. Emma, my 6-year-old daughter, was playing in the living room. My husband Michael was due home from work in 20 minutes. It was an ordinary evening until I opened the door to find a woman in business casual holding an official-looking folder. Louise Harper? Yes? I'm Linda Martinez from Child Protective Services. We received a report concerning your daughter, Emma. I need to come in and conduct a home inspection. The words hit me like physical blows. CPS, report, home inspection. I'm sorry, what? A report about what? Ma'am, I need to come inside. This is a legal investigation into potential child neglect and abuse. Abuse? There must be some mistake. My daughter isn't being abused. That's what we're here to determine. Please step aside. She walked past me into my house, into my home, looking around with the clinical assessment of someone trained to find problems. Emma looked up from her toys. Mommy, who's that? This is Ms. Martinez, honey. She's just visiting. Emma, can you come talk to me? Linda crouched down to Emma's level. I just want to ask you some questions. About what? About how things are at home. Is that okay? I watched Linda lead my daughter to the couch, feeling helpless and terrified. What report? Who had called CPS? What were they accusing me of? Ms. Harper, while I speak with Emma, I need to inspect your home. Kitchen, bathrooms, bedrooms, standard procedure. Can you at least tell me what this is about? We received an anonymous report that Emma has been seen with unexplained bruises, appears malnourished, and has been left unsupervised outside multiple times. These are serious allegations that require investigation. That's not true. None of that is true. Then you won't mind me confirming that. She walked through my house, opening cabinets, inspecting the refrigerator, checking bedrooms. I followed her like a ghost in my own home, watching a stranger catalog my life for evidence of failure. Meanwhile, Emma was answering questions on the couch. I could hear fragments. Do your parents ever hit you? Do you ever go to bed hungry? Are you ever left alone? Emma's confused voice. No. Mommy and Daddy don't hit me. We have dinner every night. When Michael came home 20 minutes later, he walked into a nightmare in progress. What's going on? CPS is here. Someone reported us for child abuse and neglect. What? That's insane! Linda emerged from inspecting Emma's bedroom. Mr. Harper, I presume? I'm going to need to speak with you as well. The interview lasted 2 hours. Linda asked invasive questions about our parenting, our relationship, our finances, our history, photographed the inside of our refrigerator, documented Emma's bedroom, took pictures of Emma including close-ups of her knees and elbows. These bruises on Emma's knees. How did she get them? From playing. She's 6. She falls down on the playground. And you witnessed these falls? Not every single one. But yes, she comes home with scraped knees all the time. She's an active kid. The report claimed the bruises looked concerning. Different ages, different locations. Because kids fall down multiple times. This is ridiculous. Linda's expression remained neutral. I'm documenting what I observe. The investigation will determine whether the allegations have merit. After she left, Emma burst into tears. Did I do something bad? Is that lady mad at me? No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. She kept asking if you and Daddy hurt me. Why would she think that? Michael and I held our daughter while she cried, trying to explain something we didn't understand ourselves. That night after Emma finally fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with Michael. Who would report us? Who would say we're abusing Emma? I don't know. A neighbor? Someone at school? It has to be someone who sees Emma regularly. Someone who misinterpreted something they saw. Or someone who wanted to hurt us. The thought was chilling. Someone had looked at our family and decided to weaponize Child Protective Services against us. Rachel Kim, my best friend since college, came over the next evening after I called her crying. This is insane. You're amazing parents. Emma is happy and healthy and loved. CPS doesn't know that. They just know someone reported bruises and unsupervised play and possible malnutrition. Now we're under investigation. What did the caseworker say? That she's documenting her observations and will determine if the allegations have merit, like we're guilty until proven innocent. You need a lawyer. I called one this morning. He says most CPS cases are resolved quickly when allegations are unfounded, but the investigation process is invasive and traumatic regardless. Emma must be so scared. She cried for an hour last night, kept asking if she did something wrong. She's 6 years old, and now she's terrified that her parents might be taken away because a stranger asked her if we hurt her. The investigation lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of Linda Martinez appearing unannounced for follow-up visits. 3 weeks of Emma being pulled out of class for additional interviews with school counselors. 3 weeks of our life being examined by strangers with clipboards looking for evidence we were unfit parents. Linda interviewed Emma's teacher, her pediatrician, our neighbors. She requested our financial records, employment verification, criminal background checks. This is standard for investigations involving allegations of neglect and abuse, the lawyer explained. They need to eliminate any possibility the claims have merit. The claims don't have merit. Then the investigation will confirm that, but you need to cooperate fully. Any resistance looks suspicious, so we cooperated. Handed over bank statements showing we paid our mortgage, bought groceries, had savings. Provided employment records showing stable jobs. Submitted to background checks that revealed no criminal history. Emma's pediatrician wrote a letter. Emma Harper is a well-nourished, appropriately developed 6-year-old with no signs of abuse or neglect. Her injuries are consistent with normal childhood activities. Emma's teacher provided a statement. Emma is a happy, well-adjusted student with no behavioral concerns. She speaks positively about her parents and home life. But the investigation continued because someone, somewhere, had decided we were hurting our child. I became hyper-aware of everything. When Emma fell on the playground, I documented it. When she chose to play in the backyard while I folded laundry inside, I checked on her every 3 minutes. Our neighbor Vanessa Coleman mentioned the CPS visit while I was getting the mail. Is everything okay? I saw that social worker coming and going. Someone made a false report. We're dealing with it. Oh my God, that's awful. Who would do something like that? I looked at Vanessa directly. I don't know. Do you? She seemed surprised by the question. Me? Why would I know? You live right next door. You see Emma playing outside. Maybe you noticed something you thought was concerning. I didn't call CPS on you, Lois, I promise. But her defensiveness made me wonder. Michael started asking around the neighborhood more directly. Found out that Mrs. Chen, 2 houses down, had seen the CPS worker. That the Johnsons across the street were gossiping about it. That several neighbors now looked at us differently, like we might actually be abusive parents. The damage is done, Michael said bitterly. Even after this investigation clears us, people will remember that CPS was here. They'll always wonder. He was right. I could see it in the way other parents looked at me during school pickup. The slight distance they maintained. The conversations that stopped when I approached. Someone had weaponized CPS against us, and whether the allegations were proven false or not, our reputation was already damaged. The investigation finally concluded after 3 weeks when Linda came to deliver her findings. Based on my investigation, I'm closing this case as unfounded. There's no evidence of abuse or neglect. Emma is well cared for, your home is appropriate, and all documentation supports your claims of being fit parents. Relief flooded through me. So this is over? The investigation is closed. However, the report will remain in CPS records. If future allegations arise, this will be referenced. Future allegations? We didn't do anything wrong, and you're leaving a record like we're suspicious? It's protocol. The case is closed, and you're cleared. But the report itself remains on file. After Linda left, I felt hollow. Cleared, but not vindicated. The investigation was over, but the damage remained. Emma had nightmares about social workers taking her away. Michael had developed anxiety about someone reporting us again. I couldn't walk through my neighborhood without wondering who had called CPS. Rachel came over that evening. You need to find out who made the report. It was anonymous. Nothing is truly anonymous. Someone saw something or thought they saw something, and they need to know what they did to your family. It took 2 weeks of careful conversations with neighbors before I pieced together what had happened. Mrs. Chen mentioned seeing Emma playing in the backyard while I was inside. I saw her climb the fence once. Looked dangerous. But kids do that, right? The Johnsons recalled Emma riding her bike on the sidewalk. She went pretty far down the street. I wondered if she was supposed to be out there alone. Every innocent observation, every normal childhood activity took on sinister implications when I heard them catalogued. Then Rachel had coffee with Vanessa Coleman's sister, who was visiting from out of town. Vanessa was really concerned about your neighbor, the sister said. Kept talking about how she'd seen the little girl with bruises, playing outside unsupervised, looking too thin. Vanessa said she agonized about whether to call CPS, but finally decided the child's safety came first. Rachel called me immediately. It was Vanessa. She's the one who reported you. Vanessa Coleman, our next-door neighbor. The woman who'd asked me if everything was okay with fake concern while knowing she'd called CPS herself. I marched over to Vanessa's house and knocked hard enough to hurt my knuckles. She answered, looking nervous. Louise, hi. You called CPS on us. You reported us for child abuse. I don't know what your sister told Rachel everything. You reported Emma for having bruises from the playground, for playing in her own backyard, for being a normal kid. You traumatized my daughter with a false report because of what? A grudge? Misunderstanding? Vanessa's face flushed. I was genuinely concerned. About what? Emma playing outside while I'm inside folding laundry? Emma having scraped knees from falling down? What exactly concerned you enough to call CPS and accuse us of abuse? She had bruises. Multiple bruises. And I'd see her outside alone. She's 6 years old. 6-year-olds get bruises, and she wasn't alone. I was inside our house, which is where parents are allowed to be, while kids play in their own fenced backyard. I thought I was doing the right thing. Better to be safe. Safe? You think traumatizing my child with an invasive investigation was safe? You think having social workers interrogate Emma about whether her parents hurt her was the right thing? If I was wrong, I apologize. You weren't wrong. You were malicious. Because this isn't about Emma at all, is it? This is about the fence dispute last year, or the parking complaints, or whatever petty grudge made you think weaponizing CPS was appropriate. Vanessa's expression hardened. I saw concerning signs and I reported them. That's what you're supposed to do. You saw a normal child living a normal life, and you decided to report her parents for abuse. You didn't talk to me first, didn't ask if Emma was okay. You went straight to CPS with allegations that could have resulted in my daughter being removed from her home. Maybe if you were a more attentive mother. Get away from me, and stay away from my family. I walked back to my house, shaking with rage. Michael found me sitting at the kitchen table an hour later. You confronted Vanessa. She admitted it, justified it, said she was concerned and did the right thing. The right thing would have been talking to us like a human being instead of calling CPS. She mentioned the fence dispute. I think this was revenge disguised as concern. We'd had a property line issue with Vanessa last year. A survey had determined that her fence was 2 feet onto our property. She'd been furious about having to move it, had made comments about us being difficult neighbors. Apparently, she'd decided to retaliate by reporting us for child abuse. Can we sue her? Michael asked. The lawyer says false CPS reports are hard to prove unless you can demonstrate malicious intent, and Vanessa will claim she genuinely thought Emma was in danger. Even though Emma was demonstrably fine? Even though. The threshold for reporting is reasonable suspicion, not proof. As long as Vanessa says she had concerns, she's legally protected. So she gets away with traumatizing our daughter and destroying our reputation? Apparently. Emma asked about Vanessa at dinner that night. Is Mrs. Coleman the one who told the lady we were bad? Yes, honey, but we're not bad. Mrs. Coleman made a mistake. Why did she think you were hurting me? Because sometimes people misunderstand things. Or sometimes they do mean things when they're angry. Is she angry at us? I think so. But that's her problem, not ours. Emma thought about that. I don't like her anymore. That's okay. You don't have to like everyone. But the damage was done. Emma was afraid of social workers. Michael had anxiety about our parenting being scrutinized. I couldn't look at Vanessa without feeling rage. And Vanessa herself seemed to feel justified, like she'd done some civic duty instead of nearly destroying a family with false allegations. 3 years after Vanessa's false CPS report, life had mostly returned to normal. Emma was 9 now, in 3rd grade, thriving. The nightmares about social workers had faded. She still didn't like our neighbor Vanessa, but at 9, she had the emotional vocabulary to say, "Mrs. Coleman was mean to us, so I don't want to play with her kids." Michael and I had done therapy to process the trauma of the investigation, learned to trust again that we were good parents, that normal childhood injuries didn't require documentation, that letting Emma play in the backyard didn't make us neglectful. We'd set firm boundaries with Vanessa. No friendly small talk, no neighborhood gatherings that included her, minimal contact beyond basic civility. Vanessa seemed to have moved on as well. Never apologized, never acknowledged what she'd done, just continued living next door like nothing had happened. Then one evening in October, Vanessa knocked on our door. I opened it to find her looking haggard and desperate. "Lois, I need to talk to you. Please." "We don't have anything to talk about. I'm going through a divorce, and I need your help." "You need my help? After what you did to my family? Please, just hear me out." Against my better judgment, I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me so Emma wouldn't hear. "What do you want, Vanessa?" "My husband is trying to take full custody of our kids. He's claiming I'm unstable, that I make false accusations, that I can't be trusted with the children. And he's using the CPS report I made about Emma as evidence, saying I have a pattern of seeing problems that don't exist, that I'm paranoid and accusatory. My lawyer says I need character witnesses, people who can testify that I'm a good mother, that the CPS report was made in good faith." I stared at her. "You want me to be your character witness? After you falsely accused us of child abuse?" "I wasn't false. I had genuine concerns." "No, you didn't. You had a grudge about a fence and you weaponized CPS. And now your ex-husband is correctly pointing out that you make false accusations and you want me to lie for you? I'm going to lose my kids, Lois. The judge is questioning my judgment. I need people who can vouch that I'm a good mother." "Are you a good mother?" "Of course I am. Because good mothers don't falsely report their neighbors for child abuse. Good mothers don't traumatize other people's children with invasive investigations. Good mothers have enough judgment to talk to their neighbors before calling CPS. That was 3 years ago. I was under stress, and now you're under stress again, and you're asking the person you traumatized to help you. Do you not see the irony? I'm desperate. My ex is going to get primary custody unless I can show the judge that I'm stable and trustworthy. You testifying that you don't hold a grudge, that you understand I was just concerned about Emma's welfare, that would help. I do hold a grudge. And you weren't concerned about Emma. You were vindictive about a property dispute. Why would I lie under oath for you? Because you're a good person? Because you wouldn't want someone to lose their kids? I wouldn't want someone to lose their kids over false allegations, which is exactly what you tried to do to us. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Please, Lois, I know I hurt you, but my kids don't deserve to pay for my mistake. Emma didn't deserve to pay for your vindictiveness either. But she did. She had nightmares for 6 months. She's still cautious around authority figures. You did that. I was trying to protect a child I thought was in danger. You saw a normal kid with playground injuries, and you decided to report abuse. That's not protection. That's poor judgment at best, and malice at worst. And now your ex-husband is using that poor judgment against you, and you want me to pretend it was reasonable. What do you want me to do? Lose my kids? I want you to face the consequences of your actions. The same way you made my family face consequences for doing nothing wrong. Vanessa wiped her eyes. So you won't help me? No, I won't. I apologized. You never apologized. Not once in 3 years. You justified what you did and moved on like it was nothing. I'm apologizing now. Because you need something from me. That's not an apology. That's manipulation. 2 weeks after Vanessa asked for help, I received a subpoena to appear in her custody case. Her attorney had compelled my testimony, presumably hoping I'd be forced to say something that would help Vanessa's case. Do I have to go? I asked our lawyer. Yes, but you don't have to help her. Just answer questions honestly. Rachel came with me to the courthouse for moral support. What are you going to say? The truth, that Vanessa made a false CPS report that traumatized my family. If her ex-husband's attorney is smart, they'll ask about that. If Vanessa's attorney asks, I'll be honest there too. The custody hearing was held in a small courtroom with just the judge, both attorneys, Vanessa, her ex-husband Tom, and their character witnesses. Vanessa looked pale when I walked in. Her attorney, a woman named Patricia Chen, called me to the witness stand. Ms. Harper, how long have you lived next door to Mrs. Coleman? 7 years. And during that time, have you observed her interactions with her children? Occasionally. We're not close, but you've seen her parenting. Would you say she's attentive to her children's needs? I've seen her with her children at neighborhood events. They seem well cared for physically. Physically. Is there something else you've observed? I've observed that Mrs. Coleman has poor judgment about when to involve authorities in other people's parenting. Patricia hesitated. Can you elaborate? 3 years ago, Mrs. Coleman called CPS and reported me for child abuse and neglect based on her observation of normal childhood activities. The investigation was traumatic for my family and was ultimately closed as completely unfounded. Mrs. Coleman has explained that she made that report out of genuine concern for your daughter's welfare. Mrs. Coleman made that report after a property dispute regarding a fence line. The timing and her behavior suggest it was retaliatory rather than concerned. Vanessa's attorney looked flustered. Your Honor, the witness is speculating about Mrs. Coleman's motives. I'm answering the question about what I've observed regarding Mrs. Coleman's judgment. I observed her making a false report that resulted in my 6-year-old daughter being interrogated about whether her parents abuse her. That's poor judgment. Tom's attorney, a man named Robert Vance, stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to cross-examine this witness. Proceed. Robert approached the stand. Ms. Harper, you said Mrs. Coleman's CPS report was found to be unfounded. Can you describe what that investigation involved? A social worker came to our home unannounced, interrogated my daughter about whether we hurt her, left her unsupervised, or failed to feed her, photographed my daughter's body, inspected our home, interviewed neighbors, teachers, her pediatrician. The investigation lasted 3 weeks. And what was the outcome? CPS found 0 evidence of abuse or neglect. Our daughter is well cared for, our home is appropriate, and all the concerns Mrs. Coleman raised were completely baseless. What were those concerns specifically? That my daughter had bruises from playing on the playground, that she played in our fenced backyard while I was inside our house, and that she supposedly looked malnourished, which her pediatrician confirmed was false. In your opinion, did Mrs. Coleman have reasonable cause to report those observations as abuse? No. In my opinion, Mrs. Coleman saw a normal child engaging in normal activities and reported abuse either because she misunderstood normal childhood or because she wanted to retaliate for a fence dispute we'd had months earlier. How did this false report affect your family? My daughter had nightmares for 6 months. She's still cautious around authority figures. My husband and I had to do therapy to process the trauma. Our reputation in the neighborhood was damaged, and we live next door to someone who weaponized Child Protective Services against us and has never apologized. Has Mrs. Coleman acknowledged that the report was false? She's maintained that she had genuine concerns and did the right thing. She's never admitted the report was false or apologized for the impact on our family. Thank you, Ms. Harper. Vanessa's attorney tried redirect. Ms. Harper, isn't it true that CPS encourages people to report concerns about children, even if they turn out to be unfounded? CPS encourages people to report genuine concerns, not to report normal childhood as abuse. Mrs. Coleman saw scraped knees and assumed abuse rather than asking a simple question like a reasonable neighbor would. After I stepped down, Tom's attorney called a child psychologist who testified about the impact of false CPS reports on families and the poor judgment required to mistake normal childhood for abuse. The judge took extensive notes. Vanessa testified in her own defense, claiming she'd acted in good faith, that she genuinely believed Emma was in danger, that any parent would have reported similar concerns. Tom testified that Vanessa had a pattern of seeing threats that didn't exist, of overreacting to normal situations, of making accusations without evidence. She accused our son's teacher of harassment because he got a bad grade. She accused me of hiding money when I was just paying bills. She reports our neighbors for noise violations constantly. The CPS report against the Harpers fits a pattern of Vanessa seeing problems everywhere and involving authorities inappropriately. The judge asked Vanessa directly, "Mrs. Coleman, do you believe the report you made about the Harper family was appropriate? I saw a child who appeared to be suffering. I reported what I saw. Yes, I believe that was appropriate. The investigation found zero evidence of abuse or neglect. Does that change your assessment? I'm glad Emma wasn't actually being hurt, but based on what I saw, I still think reporting was the right call." The judge made a note and moved on to other testimony. The judge issued her custody ruling 2 weeks later. Rachel called me with the news she'd gotten from Tom's sister. Vanessa got supervised visitation only. Tom has primary custody. The judge cited Vanessa's pattern of poor judgment and inappropriate involvement of authorities as a factor. How's Vanessa taking it? Apparently she's devastated, blaming everyone but herself. Did the judge specifically mention the CPS report? Yes. The judge said Vanessa's inability to acknowledge that the report against your family was inappropriate showed ongoing poor judgment that raised concerns about her parenting decision-making. I felt simultaneous vindication and sadness. Vindication that someone in authority had finally acknowledged what Vanessa did was wrong. Sadness that her children were paying the price for her poor judgment. "Do you feel bad for her?" Rachel asked. "I feel bad for her kids. I don't feel bad for Vanessa. She had 3 years to apologize, to acknowledge what she did, to show growth. Instead, she maintained she was right and only asked for help when she needed something." Tom's attorney said your testimony was key. The judge specifically referenced your description of the investigation's impact on Emma. Good. Maybe next time Vanessa will think twice before calling CPS on someone with normal childhood injuries. A week later, Vanessa's mother knocked on my door. "Lois, may I speak with you?" I'd met Vanessa's mother Gloria a few times at neighborhood events. She'd always been polite but distant. "What can I do for you?" "I wanted to apologize for what my daughter did, and to thank you for being honest in court. I just told the truth." "I know, and the truth was damaging to Vanessa. But it was also necessary. My daughter has always had trouble accepting when she's wrong. This custody situation has been devastating, but maybe it will teach her accountability." "How's she doing?" "Angry. Blaming you, blaming Tom, blaming the judge, not looking at her own behavior. That's unfortunate. For her kids, especially. Vanessa told me about the fence dispute that preceded the CPS report. I want you to know that I told her at the time she was overreacting. I told her to let it go. She didn't listen. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserved an apology years ago and never got one from my daughter. I'm apologizing on her behalf, though I know it doesn't undo the harm. Thank you. That means something. Vanessa may lose her children because she couldn't admit she was wrong about yours. That's a tragedy of her own making, but it's still a tragedy." After Gloria left, I sat with the complexity of the situation. Vanessa had made a vindictive choice 3 years ago that traumatized my family. Now she was facing consequences, losing primary custody of her own children. Was that justice? Or just more pain cascading through families because one person couldn't control her worst impulses? Michael found me on the porch. "You okay?" "Vanessa lost custody. Supervised visitation only." "Because of the CPS report?" "Partly. The judge said it showed poor judgment. My testimony apparently influenced the ruling." "How do you feel about that?" "I feel like I told the truth and Vanessa faced consequences she earned. But I also feel sad that her kids are caught in the middle of their mother's inability to admit when she's wrong. Those kids will be better off with Tom. He seems stable. Maybe, but they still lost daily access to their mother because she decided to weaponize CPS against our family 3 years ago. Consequences echo in ways people don't anticipate." Emma called from inside. "Mom, can we have pasta for dinner?" "Sure, sweetie." Normal family dinner conversation. Normal evening routines. The normalcy Vanessa had tried to destroy 3 years ago with false allegations. We'd survived her attack. Vanessa hadn't survived the consequences of making it. 2 years after Vanessa's custody ruling, we still lived next door to her, though we rarely saw her. She had the kids every other weekend for supervised visits. Tom had remarried and moved the children to a house 10 minutes away. Vanessa's house stood mostly empty, a monument to choices that had destroyed her family. Emma was 11 now, thriving in 5th grade, president of student council, playing soccer. The trauma of the CPS investigation had faded into a memory she could talk about with therapy-speak confidence. Mrs. Coleman made a bad choice that hurt us, but we're okay now. We were okay now. Better than okay. The experience had taught us resilience, boundary setting, the importance of protecting our family from people who would harm us. Rachel and I were having coffee when she mentioned seeing Vanessa at the grocery store. She looks terrible, aged like 10 years. How'd she seem? Bitter. She made a comment about how some people never forgive mistakes. I told her some mistakes are unforgivable. How'd she react? She said you destroyed her life by refusing to help in the custody case. I destroyed her life by telling the truth about what she did to mine. That's what I said. She didn't take it well. I didn't feel guilty. Vanessa had made choices that had consequences. The consequences had been harsh, but they'd also been earned. Our neighborhood had learned the truth over time, that Vanessa's CPS report had been false and vindictive. Other neighbors who'd initially looked at us with suspicion now avoided Vanessa instead. She's the one who called CPS on the Harpers over nothing, I'd overheard at a block party. Can you imagine traumatizing a child like that? Social consequences mattered. Vanessa had become isolated, not because we'd campaigned against her, but because people had learned what she'd done and drawn their own conclusions. Emma asked about Vanessa occasionally. Is Mrs. Coleman still sad about her kids? Probably. Losing daily time with your children would make anyone sad. Do you think she's sorry? Sorry she got caught? Definitely. Sorry she did it? I don't think so. I think Vanessa still believes she was right to report us. That's sad. Being wrong but thinking you're right. Yes, that's one of the saddest things. Michael got a job offer in another city when Emma finished 5th grade. It would mean moving, new schools, new neighborhood. Are you ready to leave this house? I looked at the home we'd built, the neighborhood we'd been part of for 9 years, the life that had survived Vanessa's attempt to destroy it. Yes, I'm ready for somewhere new, somewhere without a neighbor who weaponized child protective services. What about closure? Do you need to talk to Vanessa before we leave? There's no closure to be had there. Vanessa doesn't think she did anything wrong. I know she did. Those are incompatible positions. We told Emma about the move at dinner. She was excited about the new city, the bigger house, the adventure of starting over. Can we not tell Mrs. Coleman we're moving? Emma asked. Why not? Because she was mean to us. And I don't want to say goodbye to mean people. That's fair. We'll tell the neighbors we like and skip the ones we don't. We moved 3 months later on a Saturday morning. Vanessa watched from her window as the moving truck loaded our belongings. She didn't come outside. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't acknowledge our departure. Fine with me. I'd stopped caring what Vanessa thought years ago. At our new house in the new city, Emma claimed the biggest bedroom. This is great. New school, new friends, new start. New start, I agreed. No neighbor who'd call CPS over playground injuries. No vindictive property disputes. No false allegations haunting our reputation. Just a fresh beginning in a place where no one knew our history. Where Emma could be a normal kid with scraped knees and backyard playtime without someone assuming abuse. 3 years after we moved, Rachel sent me a news article. You'll want to see this. It was about changes to CPS reporting laws, requiring reporters to identify themselves and face penalties for false reports made in bad faith. The legislation, nicknamed Emma's Law after a local case of false reporting, aims to prevent weaponization of child protective services, while still encouraging legitimate concerns to be reported. I showed the article to Emma, now 14. They named it after you. She read it carefully. So what happened to us won't happen to other kids. Hopefully. People who make false reports will face consequences now. Good. What happened to us was scary. Yes, it was. But you survived it and became stronger. I did. And Mrs. Coleman lost her kids and became bitter. Different choices, different outcomes. Emma handed back my phone. I'm glad we moved. I like not living next to someone who hurt us. Me too. Vanessa Coleman had tried to destroy our family with false allegations. Instead, she destroyed her own family with the consequences of those lies. We'd rebuilt, moved forward, and thrived. That felt like justice enough.